All right, and we are closing out the final segment of the podcast tonight. We've got our patron Sam on with us tonight, so we are so excited to be joined by him today. Sam, how are you doing?
Good. I'm really anxious to talk about the Twinkies.
You know what?
Twinkies.
I think that you should be anxious to talk about them because with the season they had last year, that has to give anybody who is a fan of the Twins, likes baseball, either of those two things, they've got to be excited. You had, 5 guys in the 20 to 25 home run club plus? I mean, how can you not be excited then for the next season?
I mean, there are going to be some, for the love of God, we're hoping, of course, for our divisional hopes they don't repeat their offensive output, but I'm seriousI've been sort of getting annoyed with some of them, though, online. They've been trolling the White Sox offseason as not being as on par with theirs, apparently. So they think they got the crown defended more or less lock and sealed.
Well, I think that I know that White Sox Twitter right now, they're very arrogant. But a good type of arrogant. But a good type of arrogant. This is the first time the White Sox have been able to have hope in quite some time. Not 108 years, Ricky, but quite some time. So I am excited, and I understand where White Sox Twitter is, Sam. I know that they are just really, really, really happy for their team to be able to have any excitement. But I don't think in any way do the White Sox have the division locked up. I mean, the Minnesota Twins are going to be a force to be reckoned with. And, I mean, you talk about their hitting, their offensive production. They've got some pretty good guys on the pitching staff, too.
As far as you, Brandon, would you say Josh Donaldson was, the biggest offensive guy they added this offseason as far as, reinforcing their free agent losses overall?
So I like the move to get Josh Donaldson. I think that, where he is in his career right now, he's a little long in the tooth, but if the guy's still able to produce and go and get you 36 home runs, wasn't that what he had last year with his season with the Braves? Okay. I think something in the 30s, it was pretty good, but I look at that 37. We're off by 1. 37. So he had a really phenomenal year, and if he's able to repeat that again this season, I would definitely look at Josh Donaldson as probably their best signing in the offseason if he's able to produce that same production as last year. That's what I'd say. But Ricky, what are your thoughts there?
I'm on a different side, and the reason I know this is not a signing, but we can't overlook it. I think Maeda is their biggest acquisition this offseason because, yes, Josh Donaldson helps. To go with your point on the home runs, Brandon, the only year since 2014, he's had 29, 41, 37, 33 home runs. 2018 was a little bit difficult, played 16 games with the Indians, 36 with the Blue Jays in a combined year. Only had 5 and 8 home runs with each of those teams respectively before having 37 home runs last year with the Braves. But the offense to me isn't going to be a problem with the Twins. The pitching was suspect. That was their weakest link, and they go out now and they've got. So we knew that Berrios and Odorizzi were going to be their 1-2. We knew that Michael Pineda was good, but was Michael Pineda, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. To me, now having him as a fourth guy and having a guy like Maeda who's got playoff experience from the Dodgers to add him in as that third piece, this team now has a rotation of Berrios, Odorizzi, Maeda, and Pineda. That's kind of weird. Pineda, or Pineda. I'm saying it wrong now. I'm fucking it up. those four guys, they have a playoff rotation now in my mind. They have a rotation where they have a solid 3 and 4 guy that can help them when they get into the playoffs, if and when they do have to play the Yankees, because that seems like every time the Twins make the playoffs, they play the Yankees in the ALDS. It's what happens to the Twins. They make the playoffs, they play the Yankees, and then we all know what happens there, Brandon. They lose to the Yankees.
They do lose to the Yankees
a lot.
And Sam, what's your thought on that? So, of course, you have the Twins. They have a great regular season, but it's not necessarily about the regular season. It is in the sense of you need to be good in the regular season to make the playoffs. But how is it year after year when it's the Twins being in there to play the Yankees? I don't want to say year after year, but all their opportunities they get in, they play the Yankees, and then just heartbroken after the Yankees sweep the floor with them. As a Twins fan and follower, I mean, what's your thought on that? Would you rather just not see him in there?
Well, frankly, I think as far as the Twins' playoff issues on a constant basis, I think that's sort of the same sorry song that troubles the majority of all Minnesota's pro teams in general, unfortunately. Now, dig at you, Ricky, of course, being a Vikes fan, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like they just, I don't know, it's like they, you always have hope, but then they always break your heart at the worst moment, basically. It's the same song.
That sounds like a good Chicago team for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, looking at the Twins' postseason history, they have not won a postseason game since the 2004 season. That was so long ago. Do you want to know who their Cy Young Award winner was that year? They had a Cy Young Award winner that year. Do you know who it was, Brandon?
For the Twins?
For the Twins.
And what year was
2004.
this? 2004.
So I would have been 14. You would have been, what, 11 at this time?
Probably. I don't know.
Johan Santana.
Mm.
That was a long time. That's a name, like Obi-Wan Kenobi would be saying, that's a name I haven't learned in a long time, is Johan Santana. That was the last time they won a playoff game, was 2004. 2006, they got swept by the Athletics. That was when they had Santana as the Cy Young, and Justin Morneau was MVP. That was the year where we're like, ooh, maybe the Twins can make some noise as the 96 win team. And they got swept by the A's. Then you have a swept by the Yankees in 2009, swept by the Yankees in 2010, lost to the Yankees in a wild card game in 2017, and then swept by the Yankees last year. Last time they won a playoff series, 2002, in the ALDS against the A's, before losing to that Angels team that I think won the series that year in 2002.
And see, that's where I think, and I understand, Ricky, you're going to Kenta Maeda on what you think has been the best for the Twins in the offseason. But I look at the Josh Donaldson and you look at the production that he has had and that they're expecting from him again this year is that, okay, let's say one of the guys who was really, really good last year in the 20 to 25 home run range, let's say they fall off a little bit. Let's say they're not there, or a couple of guys fall off a little bit, and Donaldson's back in the 30s. They got another guy there that's just picking right up with where they left off and being able to close that gap. And now if that leads to a couple more wins, maybe that leads to 5 to 7 more wins that maybe they wouldn't have without that. So I look at that, I think Donaldson was a good signing. I don't know if I know that at the time Minnesota was like, whoa, this is the best signing we could have. Probably not, but I still think it's a very good signing.
It evens things out.
And it's going to even things out for sure. I think that those first couple of guys in the rotation for the Twins, I agree with you. I think that they're solid as you get to the back part of the rotation. I don't think it's all that great. They've got Homer Bailey. I don't have a lot of confidence in Homer Bailey.
He's a fifth starter.
Don't matter.
Yeah, I know.
Does not matter.
Like, he's a fifth starter that to me, the fifth starter is you throw him out in the regular season. Hopefully you get some good matchups against other fifth starters. that your offense can come alive. In the playoffs, Homer Bailey is a playoff game. Like, he's a bullpen arm that if you absolutely need him, you throw him out there. To me, he ain't going to be making a ton of noise when this team gets to the playoffs in October.
I'm not necessarily talking about playoffs. I mean, I don't want to be losing every fifth game.
I mean, but that's the thing of, like, hopefully you're going up against other fifth starters in that part. I know as we get through the season, injuries happen and rotations kind of mix up a bit. But hopefully he's going up in favorable matchups, and hopefully the bats are alive to where that takes some pressure off them. The guy I have a question mark this year is Taylor Rogers, their closer. And the reason why, young guy, year younger than myself, 29, was born almost a full year after me. He had his best season last year. He had his best year with a 2.61 ERA. He had 30 saves, which was the first time he had more than 2 saves in a season. 6 blown saves, also his most for a season. What are we going to see from him? He pitched in 60 games last year. Is he going to be as good as he was last year? I mean, I would say 30 saves, only 6 of the 36 games that he was in a save opportunity were blown. That's not a terrible percentage. 2.61 isn't a terrible ERA. Is he going to be just as good? Or even if he takes a step back a bit, what does that mean for the Twins if he takes a step back, or if he's put in more late game situations? Maybe games are closer this year because the offense ain't clicking like it was a year ago.
And Sam, let's bring you back in on that one. What are your thoughts there with Taylor Rogers and the bullpen? And then also, what are your thoughts on the rotation, up and down the rotation where you're at right now?
Well, to me, I think the Twins' starting rotation is still a bit suspect because if I recall correctly, Rich Hall's coming off a pretty awful elbow injury.
That's correct. Yeah.
Right. So he's like at least 2 months minimum before he's going to be doing any type of starts for them. And you also got to throw in Pineda's I think TED suspension or something like that, right? It's like 36 games.
Yeah, he's on the restricted list right now.
Yeah, so it's like I think the first couple months could be interesting because it's like, I think the division race is going to be very, very close, but I think it's like if they lose too many games within the first 2.5 months, some of their more weaker members of the rotation, it's like, who knows, maybe let's say 10 games is going to be the margin by which they could just end up being a wild card team versus they actually get to stay home being the division winner,
So there we go, Ricky. There we have another person who is saying that games in the beginning of the season could have an impact. How about it? But I think that
for the Twins, it's different than the Yankees.
I know. I was just trying to use that to my advantage. So, get out of here. But Sam, what I want to bring back to you too. So we're talking about the Twins, but I would love to know your thoughts. What are your thoughts on the White Sox? What are your thoughts on where you think the White Sox would be? And if someone's chasing the Twins at the end of the year, is it the White Sox? Is it the Indians? Are the Indians going to be relevant again this season? Is it a 3-team race? Do the Royals finally pop out? We know they're not going to. But is it a 3-team race?
Closet Royal fan.
Is it the Twins at the top of the division at the end? And then is it Indians, White Sox, or White Sox, Indians? What are you thinking?
Well, here's the thing. Clevenger's meniscus surgery, this sort of opened an interesting opportunity for us because he's their ace. He's going to be out at least 2 months, give or take, being an 8-week timetable. The thing is, we do have at least, I think, a couple games with Cleveland the first 2 months, just division-wise. I think we could actually end up beating down Cleveland pretty early and maybe sort of take them out of the equation if we can attack them pretty early.
And how about
I think ultimately the divisional path to victory as far as the crown is going to be at the beginning 2 months of this year. Like, whoever wins, like, the majority of all their divisional matchups, they're going to able to keep that stranglehold way down the line. Because you need those cushion games when, God forbid, if something, horrendous injury, guy, vice versa, or whatever the heck, we slump, bad batting averages and all that. It's like, we got a couple cushion games. Let's say it's like about 10. This way we're good when we're down in August. It's like, okay, we took some losses we shouldn't have, but we got a couple in the back from earlier, so this way it's like we can compensate. And we're just going to adjust accordingly and hopefully get into the postseason.
Sam, I heard you obviously mention something about the Cleveland Indians and how you could beat them down. I didn't hear you mention anything about the White Sox. Is that because by saying their name out loud they scare you? Or what is it? Is it because you think that maybe secretly the White Sox could end up winning the division? I mean, I would love to know.
No, I still think we have a good shot to take the division. The thing is, there's going to be some strategy to it, ultimately. This is sort of going to be like a game of chess, in my view. It being sort of like a three-team race, ultimately.
Yeah,
it's like you got to attack early and keep your holdings.
Yeah, I'm kind of, right now what I'm looking at is the early season and what Sam said, divisional games early on. And Minnesota they start their season against non-divisional opponents. They got a 4-game series against Oakland. They're in Seattle, they're in Oakland, but their first divisional games, they play Cleveland, they come to Chicago for a 3-game series, a brief stint in Toronto before coming home to play Detroit. That's about middle of April. Their next then divisional games are beginning of May against the Royals. You look at the White Sox. You guys start out division right away. You play 3 games against the Royals, then you're off to Cleveland, playing in Chicago, going to Cleveland. Your next divisional matchup is April 10th, 3 games against Minnesota, before having 2 more series split by a Texas series with the Royals. So you got kind of, to me, if you can capitalize on those Royal games, you've got 6 of your 19 games against the Royals are before April 23rd. So that could be 9 of your 19. So almost half of your Royals games happened within the first 2 months of the year. If you can capitalize on those, that can help you. However, on the flip side, the Indians, they have 9 of their Detroit games before April 17th. So they played 9 games against Detroit before the 17th while playing a 3-game series against both you and the Twins. So to me, that could help out the White Sox and the Indians by having most of your games against the Royals and the Tigers early on. The thing, though, with the Twins that I wonder, and Sam, I want to ask you this, is April 10th is still early in the year. Do you worry as a White Sox fan that by April 10th, 11th, and 12th, that's the first time you see Minnesota, it'll be at the Cell. I refuse to call it Guaranteed Rate Field. At the Cell, do you have a little bit of a worry by even mid-April this White Sox team isn't really clicking on full cylinders like it will be hopefully middle of the season, end of the season, and Minnesota might be able to get the jump on you, especially in that first series, April 10th, 11th, and 12th. What do you think, Sam?
Well, to me, that first series with Minnesota, that's more intelligence than anything. Or, like God forbid, let's say we got swept by them. God forbid. I hope that doesn't happen, of course. But the way I see it is we gain valuable film. We gain intelligence about all their players. We go back to the film room. We can plan for our next outing. We got data.
So we're
That's
taking
the
the
thing.
David Fizdale approach. We're taking that for data. That's how we're treating that first series.
I'd be happy if it was like even 1 out of 3, frankly, as far as a victory wise.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, this is going to be basically like a very, very intensive chess match with us in Cleveland and Minnesota, and it's just going to be a lot of very smooth, maneuvering here and there as far as every game series as to which one we take. I guess the best analogy is it's sort of like playing like Command or Conquer or StarCraft, and you're like trying to figure out like, okay, like how many of these enemy bases I got to be taking versus got to expand and all that other stuff that's fun as far as the RTS genre,
Mm-hmm. No, I get you.
So, Sam, outside of the division, what team are you looking at that you think is going to outside? And I guess maybe outside of the Yankees too, because that could. I mean, everyone's going to look at the Yankees as, we don't want to play them. But who do you look as the biggest opponent outside of the division this year for the Minnesota Twins?
I don't know. It's going to be an interesting race. To me, I think it's like Astros, even though they're a bunch of cheating bastards, I think they're going to be up there just by natural talent, of course. Like, I would say as far as like the dark horse who might end up like really taking things by storm, I'm going to say the Blue Jays, though.
Interesting.
I think they're going to have like I think they're going to have like a surging renaissance here, like the Tampa Bay Rays did last year, and they could get near 100. I think things are going to finally start super clicking over there.
Near 100.
Whoa.
They had 70-some wins last season?
I don't think
Near
they
100.
have that much of a surge.
I mean, if it was Monday, bold prediction Monday, it would have been perfect.
You're giving them too much credit, Brandon. They had 67 wins last year.
Oh, hey.
It's almost
Near
a
100. That is,
shit.
Sam, you are really putting one out there. And if they end up being near 100, we will have you right back here on the show to tell us how you were totally right and we were wrong.
No, it's like my view with the Jays. It's like they got all those kids up and coming, but they added Ryu as like their John Lester for their pitching ace. I think things are going to finally blossom, and I think people are going to be seeing Canadian baseball as like a force to be reckoned with again.
So you're thinking Drake probably be showing up to all those games, sitting right behind the seats, just like courtside?
Yeah. I mean, I think they're taking some cues from the Raptors. It's like, hey, let's show the world Canada's got more than hockey, frankly. It's got more than hockey to show off,
I think it's a very interesting take. I don't know if Ricky or I are on board with that.
To each their own opinion, Brandon.
But I find it to be interesting because you did say, though, Ricky, in some credit to Sam, you didn't say that they were going to be near 100 wins, but you did believe that they were going to be making some definite strides this season.
They'll be third
to their
in the
young
division.
talent, thanks to their signing of.
It's not far off.
It's not far off. But I mean, I know that. We didn't have them at 100. You didn't have them at 100, but you definitely had them getting better. Could they be near maybe that 100 mark come a couple of seasons with the talent they have?
I would say ideally, like your best season for the Blue Jays is around 80 wins, 80 to 80 plus wins. So like 80, 85. That's a good season to me.
To give a more reasonable outlook, I'll lower it to 90.
Sorry, Sam. That, we're laughing. We had a little beep 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 in our ears. That really made us both jump. People are.
And it got caught on camera too.
People are going to think we're both idiots more so than they already do. Okay, so us being jumping out of our seats here aside, so you're going to say 90 instead of near 100.
Yeah, I'll be more realistic here.
Okay. Yeah, because we're a realistic show over here. I'm just kidding. Ricky loves to put out whatever he thinks.
I believe we got a comment on one of our videos this week of like, that dude in the red, I was wearing a red shirt. They never get our names right, which is like, really? We say our names enough. And they're at the beginning of the video where they're like, that dude in the red's got some crazy ideas. But I respect it. It's like, thank you for respecting it. I want to pull this back into the AL Central, though.
Yeah.
And the thing that I'm looking at that I find interesting is, I know we were talking a lot about the beginning of the season, but what about the end of the season? And to me, the thing that I find interesting is this race. If the White Sox or the Indians cannot be in first place by September 11th, they're not catching the Twins. The reason why I say that is starting on September 11th, these are the opponents that the Twins have to end the year. A 3-game series against Detroit, a 3-game series against the Rangers, again a 3-game series with Detroit, then a 3-game series with the Padres, a 3-game series with the Royals. To me, a really cupcake schedule. After September 11th on. Like, very winnable games. The White Sox, not too far off. They've got the Royals twice. They've got Detroit in there. However, they've got a 3-game series against Oakland, who could be fighting for playoff supremacy as well. You've got a 3-game series against the Indians, who could be in on that divisional race. And then the Indians as well have the Angels, who to me, they're a big question mark this year. What's Rendon going to mean? What's Joe Madden going to mean to that team? Do they get any better year one just by adding those names? They have the Tigers as well. Seattle, too, which will probably be down in the bottom. But like they end the year against the White Sox, against the Toronto team that we just talked about. So like for me, if I had to rank September and 11th on the last last 5 series, I would say Minnesota's in the driver's seat. They've got the easiest schedule. White Sox have the second easiest. And then the Indians have arguably the hardest out of those 3 schedules coming down the stretch before the playoffs.
And I'll pick up from that. But I think that when you say that, though, Ricky, is that you're assuming, too, that the Twins are just going to roll right through their divisional opponents.
Well,
and I get it. I do
think
get
the
it.
Tigers, Rangers, Padres, or Royals going to be good?
Rangers are going to be better. I've already said I think they're going to be a team that's better. I think San Diego, they're not, where they want to be, and they're not going to be where they want to be, I don't think, this year. They're in a, as we, I think, pointed out earlier, a pretty good division.
You also got to think, this is end of the year. And if the Padres are, like, I'm sorry, if you're in dead last in your division, a lot of those guys are probably like, whatever, season's over, I'm just going out there and playing. Like,
I don't think so.
Sometimes that leads to, hey, I'm playing loosey-goosey and good things happen. But I guarantee there are players out there. There are a few that are just like, get me, like, especially like the Padres series is 22, 23, and 24. By that time, it's like, okay, get me to the offseason so I can rest up. Like, this year is over.
I know. I understand. But you also look at the Twins and Royals a lot of time have pretty good games between the two of them. All divisional teams, minus the Yankees and the Orioles, because the Yankees and the Orioles Yankees beating the Orioles like 20 out of 21 times. It's a guarantee.
You and that Yankees
It's
Orioles.
a guarantee. But
tell me how you really feel.
I think that you can't just say, like, again, I do not write off the Texas Rangers. I'm not going to write off San Diego. I might write off Detroit. And I'm not going to write off Kansas City. So I'm not saying that those games at the end are going to be, all won by the opponent that Minnesota's playing. But I'm also not saying that, Minnesota is going to have a cakewalk there. I think that as Minnesota will probably still be a good team, there is no way they are going to be as good as they were last year. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen. I don't think the Twins reach 100 wins. I think that they're most likely at their best 90 to 95. So they're not getting 100.
Just to put what you said into perspective, I don't think they're at 100 wins either. But with the Royals and Padres, last year, same part of the year, last 5 series, or I'll say from September 10th on, because that was relatively the same thing. The Padres, after September 10th, were 67 and 77. They finished 70 and 92, so they only won 3 games from the last month of the season. And the Royals, same spot. They were 53 and 92. They finished 59 wins, so they won 5 games. Like that would be 6. That's the type of 6. Thank you for correcting my math. That's the type of teams that the Twins are dealing with later in the year. Am I saying that they're going to lose every game? No, but those teams are more susceptible to getting beat by the Twins than the Indians playing a 3-game series against the Blue Jays to end the 2020 season.
Okay, Sam, jump in here. Ricky and I have gone back and forth on this. What do you think with how the Minnesota Twins end their season compared with how the Indians and the White Sox end their season as well, and additionally with who the Twins are playing from September 11th on?
I don't know. I think some of those cake teams they allegedly got on the schedule might decide to be like, hey, these guys look like they're supposed to be taking something pretty division-wise. Maybe we should play some spoiler. Show them we got some teeth. They might suffer a couple surprise losses, actually. So, realistically, I think as far as the 3-way race for the AL Central, I think it's going to be within 5 games, basically. It's going to be super tight up until the last 2 weeks, even, I think. It's going to be super tight.
So, Sam, as we kind of wrap things up here tonight, give me a prediction for the Minnesota Twins this season in terms of record. What do you think? How many wins do you think the Minnesota Twins are getting, and how do you think the rest of the AL Central is kind of breaking out? Just to wrap things up, how many wins do you think the Twins are getting, and how do you think the rest of the division aligns with them after, I'm assuming, you're having them at the top?
Yeah, I'd say they'd probably take it with like about 90, 95-ish range, take the division. That's probably going to be the magical number,
Mm-hmm.
Thing with us, I'm going to say we're going to get pretty damn near 90, I'm pretty sure. That's me still being bold, of course. But, and so we might come up by second place, but that's the 5-game margin, I think, is going to determine a lot of stuff as far as division. But, and Cleveland, I think, this is basically the last ride with their current core, and the thing is, I think them being such a small market franchise, I think by the deadline, if things aren't really going anywhere truly decent, I think they're going to be selling off some guys. So I think they could actually end up plummeting worse than people realize, and they could even finish like in the 70s by the end of the year, maybe, for all we know. And we'll just leave Detroit and Kansas City sort of where they are, because I just don't like to pick on them right now, being in their rebuilds.
Yeah, that's very nice of you. I think that, what you kind of have there is what a lot of people most likely are looking at too. I think that For me, I have the Minnesota Twins probably winning that division at the top again, between 90 to 95 wins. I think that's
many wins do
where
you
they're
have
going to be.
White Sox at? Because you're also a White Sox fan along with Sam.
Yeah, how many wins do I have the White Sox at? I think that I would put the Sox at 84 to 86 wins.
Okay.
I think that's where I'd have the Sox. I would love to reach and say that there's a chance they win the division and they get to 90 plus, but I also want to try and be realistic and say, hey, we're going to be better than we were last year, but we're still not, quite there at that. I mean, we're there in terms of the pieces we're getting, but a lot of guys are going to be playing their first season, doing all that type of stuff. So I think that, it's going to be really, very interesting this season for sure. That's where I'd have those top two. And I really think his comment is interesting about Cleveland, because if they're not where they want to be come All-Star
they're
break,
going to trade Lindor.
They are going to trade Lindor. They'll trade off, other pieces as well. And I could see then, where they kind of plummet in the win section.
And it depends on who gets Lindor too. Is he added to a playoff team, which kind of spikes them up? Also, I want to bring in Sapaznikov, I think is how you say it, from Twitch chat. He agrees with you. He says, don't doubt the Rangers. They could be a dark horse for the wild card. So he's riding the Ranger train along with you, Brandon. I'm not. I'm a doubter of the Rangers. I don't think they sniffed the wild card. I think when it comes to the Central, the Twins have got it. It's their division to win. It's their division to lose. If they lose, it's not going to be because the White Sox or Indians did anything special. It's because we're looking at it and going, wow, this Twins team took a step back. That's the story that we're looking at. But I do think that the Twins win the division. I will say the White Sox are in second place. An ideal situation is, of course, making the wild card game. But I don't know if I want to fully put the White Sox in that wild card game. I think if you have more wins than last year, you look good this year, that's ideal for the White Sox. Pie in the sky is making the wild card game to me, because you're going to have teams like, I think the Blue Jays are going to make a run at that wild card spot. The Athletics are going to be a wild card team this year. You also have the Rays that I think are going to be just as good as they were a year ago. So that's kind of three teams that are going to join in that race that I don't know if the White Sox are there to compete with the A's, especially the A's and the Rays. But the Blue Jays may be a little bit of ahead, or a little ahead of the White Sox, because their young core, what the Blue Jays were last year could be what the White Sox are this year. And that's kind of weird to say because they had less wins than the White Sox. But I do think the Blue Jays are going to have a good year this year and could make a run at that wild card.
Well, Sam, any final thoughts from you on the AL Central before we wrap it up?
Well, the other thing is we're still trying to make a year of impression, since this is the first year of contending, actually. I mean, I know Nomar's got a lot of upside and stuff, but if he's more of a platoon guy, I'm hoping we make enough of a nice free agency appeal to maybe George Springer when he's hitting the market pretty soon, and Dallas could be like, hey buddy, you think you might want to join me over here?
You want a cheater on your team?
You
want a cheater on your team, Sam?
Well, I know, but that's like the other thing. It's like he's too damn good, so it's like you sort of got to go with it.
Yeah, and I hear he's darn good at banging on a garbage can.
Yeah, he is.
Well, we are going to wrap it up tonight. Sam, thank you so much for coming on. We really enjoyed the conversation, really appreciate it. And I think that if nothing else, you really, really, really got the Blue Jays fans very much enthused about their potential 90-plus wins this year that you had coming out of your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
But again, Sam, thank you so much for coming on. Definitely a pleasure. And thank you to everybody else for tuning in, everyone on Twitch for checking in live. Really appreciate all that support. Hope you enjoyed tonight as much as we did. And then, of course, for everybody out there on YouTube, we hope you enjoyed this as well. Make sure you comment down below on everything, whether it be Manfred, Severino, and the Yankees, and certainly the AL Central, the Twins, the White Sox, the Cleveland Indians. We would love to hear what you are thinking.
And Brandon, maybe I'm throwing this to you on the spot. If they're on YouTube right now and they're like, can I see the show live? Can they see us live? Can they watch the podcast live as it's happening? Can they do that? Are we live right now?
Yes.
Yes.
What did I say?
No. I'm throwing you. This is what we call a little tease in the biz. They can go to twitch.tv. /Most
you can't do it like that, though. You make me feel like I've said something incorrect.
No, you said everything right.
And you look at me like I know how your Morse code is working. I don't.
By this point, you should know.
Well, I should. You know, I can't follow you half the time.
If you're on YouTube, twitch.tv /Most podcast, you can see this magic happen while it happens live on Twitch.
Oh, my goodness. Do not let Ricky be the leader. He'll follow you places you don't understand where you're going.
I'll lead you places.
Yeah, he'll lead you.
You said follow.
Whatever. I'm so confused. I'm done with you. We're done with Ricky. We're done with the podcast. But if you want to be just like Sam Cohen, a podcast, fully loaded specifically, and talk about baseball, it's coming up. We are less than a month away from regular season baseball. Very
actual
exciting.
Games that count.
You can go to patreon.com /Most Valuable Podcast and make a donation, come on Fully Loaded, talk with Ricky and I, and be just like Sam. And Sam, thank you so much for all of your support. We really appreciate it.
Hopefully we get to games where I don't see scores like 12-6. Because that's most of the spring training games I've seen from the Cubs.
Unless, of course, it's
been in the
your
double
team
digits.
that's winning.
Well, we lost 12-6 today, so I don't like seeing that.
All right. And with that, so long, everybody. Until next time.